and welcome to this edition of Talk Vietnam. Now, Vietnam's film industry is growing enormously and integrating into the world every single day. And with that in mind, the capability to pitch a project, an idea, or a film to the international market becomes all the more increasingly important, especially for Vietnamese young filmmakers. Now, in our edition of Talk Vietnam today, we're very lucky to have with us award-winning British producer Paul Welsh, and he's here with us because he's also a specialist in pitching, or the ability to present a story or film to the international market, or just to a potential financier, a potential producer who might get your film out there. But before we talk to Paul, let's learn more about him in the following clip.
Paul is an award-winning producer, developer, and commissioner of live-action, animated, and documentary film based in Scotland but working internationally. He founded Digicult in 2001 and continues to lead on development and production for the company. Over the last 12 years, through Digicult and Ash Center Films, Paul has built a strong reputation for developing emerging film talent at short and feature length, distilling his approach into a process-based workshop experience, The Story Room. Consulting on story, script, development, and production, he works with independent producers and funds including Creative England, Creative Scotland, Screen Australia, and New Zealand Film Commission in November 2013.
Hello, Paul.
Hi.
Thank you so much for joining us here today.
No problem.
I believe it's your first trip to Vietnam?
My very first trip, yep. It was an opportunity that I couldn't really miss when I was asked by the British Council.
Yes, and how has the trip been so far? I believe you've been teaching in both Ho Chi Minh City and Hanoi.
The energy in the cities is amazing. I mean, the population of Ho Chi Minh is twice the population of my country. I live in Scotland, and so that in itself is quite amazing. But I think the dynamism of the cities, in the sense that they're rapidly growing in lots of different ways and there's a real diversity within them, is really impressive.
You've been focusing a lot on pitching skills,
Yeah.
basically the idea of presenting a story to someone and getting them to really take it in. So if you can, please, what is your definition of pitch?
I think the point I've been making to all the young filmmakers is that pitching is not just about presenting a story or a project, it's also about presenting themselves and also connecting and communicating and getting to know somebody else and what they need and what they are looking for. Pitching is a great opportunity to introduce yourself and in a way that can make your whole career evolve and develop, not just with respect to one project, but with respect to many stories over
True.
many years.
You know, when we're talking about pitching session, I mean, a lot of audiences out there watching, young filmmakers even, might not even know yet what goes into a pitching session. So if you can please enlighten us.
Well, that's a very good question, and that's part of the approach we've taken this week, is to ask the filmmakers to try and put themselves in the shoes of the other person, the person that they're meeting, or even the group of people that they're meeting.
Yes.
And they have certain questions in their minds. The big question is, what is the project that you've got that you want to try and offer us, or you want us to come on board in some sort of way. The other question is obviously, who are you? What have you done?
Yes.
Can I trust you to do what you say you're trying to do?
Exactly.
Do you have the experience to do that? Do you have the commitment? Do you have the insight to tell a story that is actually going to move people in the way that you say it's going to move people? If you leave any of the big questions unanswered, then it leaves a question mark, and you don't really want question marks.
Yes.
There are some healthy question marks, but there are some unhealthy question marks.
Yes.
And I think you try and answer everything, so there's only good questions left, which is around the person's anticipation of where you might take the story and how exciting that might become and how attractive that might be, And I think that, from the point of view of the filmmaker, they've got questions as well. You go into a meeting where you've never sat down with this person before, and the big question is, will they like what it is I'm trying to do? Yes. And we want to get some sort of answer to that. But it's unlikely you would necessarily get a completely frank answer during the meeting. You may do. Someone might say, I absolutely love this story, please, please send me it. Or please, bring more information or whatever. More likely people will, reflect on it and go away with an impression that they will share with their colleagues before they necessarily share it with you.
Yes.
So it becomes important for the filmmaker to be able to read the body language of the meeting and to be able to sense and be sensitive to what's going on.
Exactly.
So they don't misinterpret what's going on and they can adjust what they're saying accordingly.
Paul Welsh has been teaching both two classes in Ho Chi Minh City and Hanoi, as we said, and these all focus on the fundamentals of what makes a good pitch and how to basically carry out a pitch in the end. So we'll take a look at the class here in Hanoi.
During a 2-day workshop at the Center for Assistance and Development of Movie Talents, Paul Welsh introduced 30 students to the good practices of pitching ideas for movies. Welsh's class showed students how to introduce themselves and how best to establish a relationship with potential investors. Other modules in this workshop included presenting yourself, how to tell a story, and how to write an interesting script.
Cái việc mà học để đi xin một cái tài trợ nó là một cái sự trải nghiệm nhiều lần, nó phải diễn biến rất là nhiều lần trong cuộc sống của mình và từ đấy mình rút ra được những kinh nghiệm. Đây là một cái cơ hội rất là tốt để các em được trải nghiệm, đặc biệt là một cái người thầy giáo mà đã yêu quý Việt Nam và đã có những cái thành công với thế giới.
The students also tried their hands at pitching, introducing themselves and their film project in just 1 minute. From these experiences, the students learned a valuable lesson.
Trước anh từng nói mình cái là khóa pitching là đơn giản chỉ là nói chuyện cả. Mình nghĩ là pitching là phải thuyết trình, phải bán ý tưởng làm sao người ta muốn mua cái tác phẩm của mình. Nhưng hóa ra mình nghĩ nó đơn giản hơn là đơn giản chỉ làm cuộc nói chuyện và làm hai người hứng thú với nhau. Mình thấy công nhận là đúng, bởi vì là chỉ khi nào mà hai người cảm thấy hứng thú với nhau thì họ mới hào hứng với cả câu chuyện của mình và hào hứng với cả cái tác phẩm mà mình đang đau đáu trong lòng.
After the first practice session, the 10 students with the most outstanding projects were selected to have one-on-one sessions with Paul Welsh to learn more about the skills needed for a successful pitch. For Nguyễn Thùy Giang, an independent young filmmaker, this is not her first time learning about pitching skills. However, this is still a valuable opportunity for her to work with Paul Welsh to perfect her script.
Sau khi mà ông đã đọc cái tóm tắt của tôi thì là đã đưa ra những cái nhìn một cách khách quan của một người đọc, của một người lắng nghe câu chuyện. Tôi cảm thấy câu chuyện của bạn đang có vấn đề ở đây. Bạn có thể giải thích nó không? Mặc dù là bạn nói như thế đấy nhưng tôi chưa thấy trong tóm tắt.
I'm very satisfied with everyone that I've met running the workshop. I feel like no matter what level of experience they had or have, they were very focused and very committed and interested in learning new things. And from talking to the individual filmmakers and the writers, I get the feeling that everybody's found something in the programme which has been useful to their own project.
According to experienced producers, Korean and other Asian filmmakers are interested in investing in Vietnam film industry. Therefore, this workshop is a special experience for young Vietnamese filmmakers to gain the skills necessary to break through to the international market.
You mentioned earlier before that you don't want to leave a lot of unanswered questions, especially negative ones. So that's just one example. But what are some of the big mistakes that someone going into a pitch can make?
Well, there's various mistakes you can make. One is, often when people are nervous, they'll arrive in a pitch situation and blurt out, the most significant part of their proposal. I think in some way, I think it's important to establish rapport with the person that you're talking to. And then obviously, everyone is interested in what it is that you're proposing.
Yes.
And then, the big mistake is often then that people start to tell the story.
Tell the whole story.
Tell the whole story. In cinema, a good story doesn't often reveal itself completely until the very end.
Exactly.
And that takes an hour and a half.
Sure.
The language of cinema and the structure of a film is very different from how you need to tell a story in the way that we're speaking now, you know. And people have to learn how to describe and tell their stories in an appropriate way for this situation, not how they imagine it on the screen.
How can I tell someone that I want to film this story if I don't tell them the whole story?
Well, there's different ways of doing it, but there's
like a hook or...
Yeah, there's a hook or a premise, I think, which captures the shape of the story without going into too much detail.
Yes.
You know? So my last feature film was a story set at the end of the Second World War, which explored the experience of a group of children, brothers and sisters, from a Nazi family who are separated from their parents and then have to travel as refugees back across Germany at the end of the war. And whilst that's happening, the oldest daughter, whose name is Loa, which was the name of the film, begins to discover what's happened during the war and begins to get a sense of what her parents and herself indirectly have been implicated in or involved with. You know, that's the world of the story.
Yes.
Now within that, many different things happen.
Exactly. Yeah. Now, if we can go back to the class that was taking place here in Hanoi, can you please go into more details about what you taught, you know, the students and how they reacted here in the country?
I asked them to imagine themselves in the situation that they were about to pitch to somebody they didn't know. Then I asked them to think about their own projects, and then I asked everybody to stand up and just in a very short amount of time practice. Not even practice, just try to introduce themselves in the project in the most simple way to the rest of the people in the room. Before they did that, though, I asked them how nervous they were, and most of the class was nervous.
We're nervous, yes. I understand that during this course you had an opportunity to work with 10 best candidates of the class, or 10 projects? Yeah,
there was 10 projects that were selected by Redbridge, by the partners of the British Council.
So which were some of the projects that impressed you the most?
The strongest stories out of the ones that I've read over the last week in Vietnam, for me, are the ones which bring me, through the story, closer to the experience of being here. Which doesn't mean it's a drama, it can be a thriller, or it can be a horror story, but something which captures the energy and the richness of this culture, whilst also being a good story and being entertaining, you know. Something which moves me in a way that feels like I'm getting a stronger sense of what it is to be here.
Yes.
Because, you know, people watch films partly to travel the world, you know.
We won't keep the audience waiting any longer, because in the next report we actually have 3 of the projects that were, you know, considered one of the best among the different projects that Paul was looking at between Ho Chi Minh City and Hanoi. So we'll have a look at those.
After a workshop with 30 students, Paul Welsh selected 10 students with the best projects to help them improve the scripts before their pitching sessions. Nguyễn Hữu Hoàng is a young filmmaker who spent 3 years studying and working in the film industry in Malaysia. Hoàng project tells the story of a group of friends who were born and raised in a coastal village who dream of coming to the big city. Time passes and they reunite, not as friends, but as enemies. Paul Welsh highly praised the idea of the script.
Out of all the scripts I read today, one of the most advanced in terms of how it looks. He has very strong ideas for how it will look on the screen. So clearly there's a sensibility there, a directorial sensibility, which is building on the writing.
Fortunately for Hoàng, not only did he receive feedback from Paul, he also had a chance to listen to other story ideas and scripts in the class from translating for them. From that, he learned valuable lessons for his own project.
Thầy nói là kịch bản của em thì nó như là một cái gọi là như cái hành trình ấy, của nhân vật, thì thầy cảm thấy thích thú là những cái địa điểm ở trong đấy và cái lộ trình lối đi đấy thì như là mình bị cuốn theo cái đấy. Nhưng thầy chỉ dặn có một cái là cái khởi đầu thì mình phải tạo những cái mà yếu tố nó chân thực hơn và xác thực hơn để người xem người ta bám được vào từ những phút đầu tiên. Đấy.
Huy Zhang's story, Vị or Taste, is a story about cuisine. After discussing with Paul Welsh, she learned the next step to finalize her script.
Ông nói chi tiết về các nhân vật của tôi và cảm thấy rằng nhân vật chính chưa đủ mạnh, chưa đủ chất liệu để làm người ta có cảm giác là nhân vật chính, hoặc quá khứ và hiện tại đang bị nó đang có sự chênh lệch nhau về cảm xúc, có nghĩa là người xem chưa có một cái cảm xúc mạch lạc giữa quá khứ và hiện tại. Nó là vấn đề chi tiết của kịch bản.
Unlike Hoàng and Giang, Nguyễn Lê is a filmmaker with lots of experience at film festivals. One of his films was featured at the recent UK Film Festival organized by the British Council in Vietnam. Lê came to this class with the goal of learning to make horrors and thrillers. With Lê's script, Paul Welsh was impressed with the cohesiveness and the development of the story.
I've advised them to build on what is a very strong opening and to discover what happens and to refine his ideas for what happens in the story. And at that point, if he manages to achieve that and deliver the meaning that he's interested in, he's very clear about what he wants to say and what sort of character he wants to write, then I think that could be a very exciting project that would definitely interest people elsewhere.
Lúc đầu thì mình chỉ định làm một cái phim ngắn dựa trên kịch bản này thôi. Tuy nhiên là ông Paul cũng góp ý là với một kịch bản như vậy thì cũng nên suy nghĩ về cái hướng là có thể phát triển thành một phim truyện dài được.
With Paul's guidance, the young filmmakers hope to bring the craft to international and domestic film festivals in the future.
Over the time, you've obviously had not that much time to work with the students in each places, but did you notice any changes in the students over the course of the training?
I did feel like people became more confident and more assertive about what it was they were doing generally.
Yes.
And I obviously felt that, certainly in my relationship with them, we went from being strangers to being connecting, which is what you hope when you spend time with anybody. But we were connecting around things that mattered to them, and as they told me and as I explored those projects, they became more important for me as well. I sensed that everyone was galvanized and collectively, I think, feeling very positive. If not about their projects, then certainly about themselves and their ability to do something with the project to make it better, which is also part of it. Because sometimes pitches reveal weaknesses. It's not just about the strengths, it's also about what doesn't work, what doesn't satisfy somebody, and you have to be open to that. But if you are open to it and you recognize it, then you can do something about it. You can make it stronger.
Yes.
And if you know you can make something stronger, that also gives you confidence to go on,
Yes, talking about this relationship between pitch and film, I mean, we talked about what makes a good pitch.
Yeah.
What then makes a good film? Because, from pitch to film is a long way.
I asked the question at the heart of every story, what does there need to be? At the heart of every great film, what does there need to be? And I think in that case, there are always difficult situations. For a drama, always a very difficult situation, which is unfamiliar to us in some respects. So we're curious about what that might mean, And then there's always characters in stories who hold our interest. So if you have interesting predicaments, interesting, difficult situations, and characters that behave in ways that are impressive to us in some respects, or we can relate to, but at the same time are surprising us, then we wonder what happens. Yes. We wonder where this is going to lead us. So I think every great story and every great film has certain elements at the very heart of it, which you can't argue about. And why would you argue about them? Because it's a reflection of life, isn't it? We find ourselves in situations and we try and get through them as best we can, And drama reflects that, you know.
Exactly.
And if people are wondering how to make their stories stronger, make their films stronger, it's to make those predicaments stronger, to make those characters stronger, and to be then truthful to the consequences of that.
Now, before the workshop here in Hanoi, on the very last day of the workshop in Ho Chi Minh City, there was an event called the Pitchfest. Now, this is an occasion for 10 top projects of the class to be able to pitch their ideas and films to some of the biggest producers and financiers in the film industry in Vietnam. We'll get a look at that in the following.
Following the one-on-one sessions with Paul Welsh, the 10 most outstanding projects were selected to attend the Weiss Pitchfest in Ho Chi Minh City. This is a pitching competition with a jury board composed of renowned Vietnamese filmmakers such as Jimmy Nghiêm Phạm of Chánh Phương Films, Ngọc Hiệp of PhD, Vũ Quỳnh Hà of CJE&M, and director Victor Vũ. Lê Bảo and his project Lam, which tells the story of Nigerian immigrants in Ho Chi Minh City, is one of the 3 filmmakers and projects that won high awards at the event.
Khi mình giới thiệu dự án mình xong thì những người giám khảo họ có chia sẻ với mình về cái cách thức mình có thể là xin tài trợ những cái phim độc lập, rồi cái cách mà mình có thể đến đâu để tìm được diễn viên. Rồi sau khi mà mình vừa trình bày xong thì có vài người bạn họ có nói với mình là họ biết những người châu Phi đó và họ có thể giới thiệu cho mình. Thì đó là cái được đầu tiên của mình. Mình rất là vui.
Lam tells the story of 3 illegal Nigerian immigrants in Ho Chi Minh City. They, along with a green-haired Vietnamese girl, are discriminated and have to fight to survive in the city. But no matter what, they don't want to return to the place they left behind. Both international and Vietnamese audiences can relate to this very special story, which is why it caught the jury's attention.
Thì cái dự án của Bảo thì nó lạ và cái dự án nó cần một cái người nó gọi là đam mê và họ phải tìm hiểu về những cái người đó rất là nhiều và tìm hiểu ra những cái chi tiết đồ. Thì anh thấy cái dự án đó nó rất là thích hợp cho những cái phim liên hoan phim trên toàn thế giới.
Mình nhìn vào cái dự án đó là mình cũng thấy được cái con người của cái người đạo diễn, cái người biên kịch. Thì cái câu chuyện đó là câu chuyện về những người Nigeria ở Sài Gòn. Và Bảo tâm sự thì Bảo kêu là bởi vì hàng ngày Bảo đi xe bus và Bảo nhìn thấy những cái người này và Bảo đặt cái câu hỏi là cái cuộc sống của họ như thế nào. Thì mình thấy đây là một cái nhà làm phim rất là nhạy cảm với cái cuộc sống xung quanh.
Cái tên này nó ngắn quá. Tên tác phẩm Lam.
The 3 most outstanding projects, as awarded by the jury, included Lê Bảo Lam, Hang's Summer 1999, and Hồ Bình An by Huỳnh Thanh Sĩ. From the 30 original projects to the 3 winning projects, the jury can see a significant improvement in story development as well as the young filmmakers' pitching skills.
Những cái đề tài các bạn đưa ra là tôi nhìn sơ qua rất là phong phú và cũng như vậy là nhà sản xuất chúng tôi cũng tạo điều kiện cho họ và gặp họ để có thể hiểu hơn, để có thể đóng góp ý kiến nhiều hơn để cho cái tác phẩm của họ có thể hoàn thiện và coi như vậy là cả hai cùng có thể hợp tác được với nhau rất là tốt.
Khi mà mình nhận cái hồ sơ dự án của các bạn, khi mà các bạn đăng ký để tham gia cái khóa học và so với cái buổi ngày hôm qua 10 cái dự án mà các bạn trình bày á, thì mình thấy hoàn toàn có một cái sự tiến bộ rất là lớn và các bạn hiểu hơn về dự án của các bạn cũng như là cái trình bày của các bạn nó cũng tốt hơn. Thì mình nghĩ là đây cái khóa học với bản thân mình thì mình đánh giá đây là một cái khóa học thành công và có ích đối với các cái bạn làm phim trẻ.
Now, in the past report, we just saw, a pitch fest in Ho Chi Minh City. Can you please share with us more about, what is a pitch fest and what is the significance of it?
Well, this is the other thing. You know, we talk about pitching as one thing, and it's never one thing. It can be meeting a person informally. I mean, you hear about the elevator pitch, where you meet somebody in an elevator.
Oh, really? Yes.
Yeah.
And you have so much like
You've only
limited
got
time.
yeah.
Yeah, no, from floor 2 to 5.
Yeah, and you have to get the thing across.
Yes.
You know, the elevator pitch is the fast pitch because you've got no time, and then you've got maybe informal pitches where you're meeting somebody for some other reason, and they ask you what you're doing, and suddenly you're talking about a project that you didn't expect to talk about. That can be a pitch, effectively. Or you've organised a meeting.
Yes, a formal pitch.
Formal meeting in your diary, and you meet one person in a room and there's nobody else around. But now at film festivals, there are also these environments where you might have a room full of tables, and there's 2 people at each table, and there's 50 tables, and they're all pitching.
Wow.
And then after 20 minutes, everybody switches,
switch.
and you go to another table and you pitch to somebody else, like speed dating.
Yes,
you know?
it is like speed dating.
And then there's pitches where there's maybe 5 people behind a table, and you walk into a room. It's very intimidating.
Oh, that's very intimidating.
And then
yes.
you have to pitch to this room, you know.
Yes.
So there are different environments and different situations where we will still be pitching, you know. The Pitchfest is one of those where you know, in Ho Chi Minh, I think there's 4 or 5 people, and the talent are pitching across the table to them. But in that situation, I'd just say to people, as much as possible, you want to bring it back to the conversation. In the same way as all these other meetings happen, you want to not change yourself. You want to, you know, introduce yourself and find out who these people are and exchange ideas about the project. And it's hard to be calm in those situations and not to be nervous, but in a way, that's the goal, is just to be as honest and as confident as you would be in any situation.
In 2010, as producer, Paul's debut feature Skeletons with Nick Whitfield won the Michael Powell Award for Best New British Feature at EIFF before its UK release by Soda Pictures. In 2011, the film was BAFTA and BIFA nominated for Outstanding Debut Feature and Outstanding Achievement in Production respectively. It was co-produced with Forward Films, London, and funded by Scottish Screen and EM Media. In 2012, his second feature, Lore, premiered and sold internationally, winning numerous prizes including Australian and German Academy Awards, Best Film, Bronze, Best Film at Stockholm IFF and the Hamptons and Piazza Grande Audience Award, Locarno. Co-written and directed by Kate Shortland, Somersault, Lore was Australia's nominee for Foreign Language Oscar in 2013. It was co-produced with Porsche Light Films, Sydney, and Rofilm, Berlin.
Now, going back to your background, I mean, we introduced you as an award-winning British producer. I mean, you've obviously, some of the, you know, award-winning works that you've done, including Skeletons and obviously the upcoming Lore. Can you please share with us a little bit on your background? You know, like back in the days, how did you, you know, get started in filming?
Come from a writing background. My studies weren't in film, they were in linguistics. And then from that, I moved into journalism and creative writing, theatre, poetry, things like that. And then gradually edged towards screenwriting and film, but as an idea, I didn't have any connections in that world at all.
Yes.
And then a friend of mine who was a very good writer asked if I would be interested in producing a short film that they had written. So that was the first film I produced.
Yes.
But I was writing and producing at the same level at that point in time. Yeah. So I still, and my story development, script development is the mainstay or the core of my producing.
Yes.
That's my main expertise or focus. And I do still write, but I find I don't have enough time to dedicate to my stories as I need to, you know. My idea, would be to, as well as working with other good people, would be to write and produce my own scripts as well as other people's. At the moment, I mainly produce other people's work.
Exactly.
Other people's stories.
But if I can go back, you know, you talk about, getting used to not being thrown off after a few years when you're adapted to this environment, this very sometimes hostile environment of getting your pitch through. Do you remember your very first pitch?
Yes, I do, actually. Absolutely hilarious. Before I had any experience, before I'd made any, very few films I'd been involved with, somebody suggested going to Cannes. But I had an idea for a feature film, and I saw in the program that a producer that had produced a film that I really liked was around, and I somehow got in touch with him because I liked their film, not because I wanted to pitch to them, but just because I wanted to connect with them. And he said, yes, come and have a meeting and everything. And I was like, okay, I'll come and have a meeting. He said, meet me on the Carlton Terrace, which is a very fancy
the
hotel.
Carlton.
Yeah. So it was all amazing to me. I had never been there before. And I sat down and he just looked at me and I said, thanks for meeting. I just wanted to say how much, I liked your film. And he went, yep, great. Really appreciate that. So what have you got?
Oh, he asked you that?
Instantly asked me to pitch. And I looked at him and I was like, oh my God, I've got a pitch here. So I pitched this story that I had.
Yes.
And I'd only had an idea for it.
You weren't ready. You were going into a pitch without even knowing that you were going into a pitch.
So I told him my idea for the story and he said, I love that. I love that story.
Oh, really?
Can you send me it?
Wow.
And I was like, yeah, no, I'll do that. And then I thought to myself, when am I going? I hadn't even written it. And then I didn't send them it ever.
Really?
No.
So your first pitch didn't really go through?
My first pitch was a success, but I didn't have a story. I had an idea for a story. This was in 1999.
Wow, so a while ago, yes.
Way before I had done...
started film and everything.
Now, I could pitch that story now the same way, with the same idea, but now I could write it.
Now, while pitching is yet to be very popular and not many people may know about it here in Vietnam, there have been a number of Vietnamese filmmakers who have successfully pitched their films to the international market. Let's take a look.
Và anh sẽ trở lại, or And I'll Be Back, won the jury's awards at the 18th Vietnam Film Festival held in Quảng Ninh in 2013. The event was sponsored by the Cinematography Department and CGV Company. While other films faced many difficulties during production, And I'll Be Back convinced sponsors with the story and background.
Có, nhớ lắm.
Các khách hàng tài trợ bây giờ họ cũng quan tâm đến những cái vấn đề mà họ cảm thấy họ muốn đóng góp cho xã hội hoặc là mang tính cái giá trị nhân văn con người cao. Rất may mắn cho Và Anh Sẽ Trở Lại ở một điểm, đấy là Và Anh Sẽ Trở Lại mang tính văn hóa dân tộc ở Việt Nam rất là cao. Cụ thể là truyền tải được cái tính văn hóa của dân tộc người Mông ở trên vùng cao của Tây Bắc. Và Anh Sẽ Trở Lại rất được ủng hộ trong quá trình xin tài trợ như thế.
On September the 9th, Flapping in the Middle of Nowhere by director Nguyễn Hoàng Điệp won the Best Film title at the Venice Film Festival's International Critics Week. To achieve this success, Hoàng Điệp went through countless pitching sessions.
Cái bài thuyết trình mà hay nhất ấy, nó là có cái mối liên kết rất là chặt chẽ giữa bạn và bộ phim. Khi mà cái người nghe họ nhìn thấy rõ một cái mối liên kết gần như là không thể tách rời giữa bạn là cái người đang nói và cái bộ phim mà mai này họ sẽ được xem. Nếu như họ hỗ trợ, họ góp sức hoặc họ tham gia vào cái bộ phim đó thì tôi nghĩ đấy là cái điều quan trọng nhất trong cái việc thuyết trình. Tôi nghĩ là cái bài thuyết trình mà quan trọng nhất đối với tôi và có ý nghĩa nhất đối với cái phim này ấy, đấy là tôi đã thuyết phục được cộng sự của mình, mà mình gọi là đoàn làm phim của mình đấy, để mà họ toàn tâm toàn ý làm việc cùng mình, họ tin vào những cái quyết định của mình, thì cái chuyện đó rất là quan trọng.
Ông ơi, án này là gì?
Be Don't Be Afraid was the first feature film Phan Đăng Di wrote and directed. The film won the Outstanding Project of Asia Award at the Busan Film Festival in October 2007. On October 8th, Phan Đăng Di received the Asian Project Market Award at the Busan International Film Festival for his film Full Moon Party. The award was worth nearly $20,000 US. So, from Be Don't Be Afraid to Full Moon Party, What has Van Đăng Di learned?
Mà clip rất là rõ ràng chẳng hạn để chiếu lên cho người ta xem, rồi mình phải có một cái kế hoạch sản xuất rất là rõ ràng với cái kinh phí, với cái dự toán nó rõ, một cái lịch quay nó rõ. Tức là khi mọi người nghe mình nói và xem tất cả các hình ảnh đó thì gần như là mọi người thấy có một cái phim tương lai nó đang hiện ra trước mắt, chứ nó không phải những cái trừu tượng. Tất cả những cái đó nó làm cho cái việc cái người đầu tư hay tất cả những cái người đến mà gặp mình nhé, họ thấy thú vị và có thể vì thế cho nên là họ có thể tiếp tục đầu tư.
Young filmmakers now have many opportunities to attend pitching classes with the goal of developing the country's film industry and finding a place for Vietnam in the international market.
So in our studio today, we're very lucky to have with us the director of Redbridge Vietnam TV and film production, Ms. Ha Thu Vân. And she's here with us with the experience that she has in, as the name of her company implies, being a bridge between the Vietnamese film industry and the world. And Redbridge Vietnam is also the organization that has been working with British Council to bring the course, the pitching course of Paul Welsh here to Hanoi. So let's welcome Ms. Vân. Hello. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me. It's a great pleasure.
Now, being someone with a lot of experience in kind of, you know, the young generation of Vietnamese filmmakers and helping them to reach out to the world, why do you think that it is important for, you know, pitching to be, you know, a subject of training here in the country?
Pitching is a very important skill that you cannot ignore when you start to make a film, because you need to have money in order to make your films. So that's why when I hear from the British Council about they intended to do some course like this, I think that is very important for me to do something immediately to ask them if I can help them to do that in Hanoi.
Now, in terms of, you know, the different films, because I know Redbridge has been a bridge bringing many Vietnamese films to the international market. Can you share with us some of the experiences from this that perhaps other filmmakers can learn from?
I myself feel like, as a Vietnamese, I feel like I want to do something more than a production company, more than just try to make money for myself, but have to find somehow to help a lot of people, because also that was good for the industry and of course good for me. So the first time Filmmaker Vietnam, and then the International Film Festival on the year 2012, that we have 3 classes in the campus. So we have many young Vietnamese who can have a chance to learn a lot from experts around the world. And then the Hanif. So it's like a chain of activities that people pay attention.
Hanoi International Film Festival will obviously be a wonderful chance for many of the filmmakers out there to try their hand. Yes. What are some of the subjects that you, in your own experience, seeing the films that were able to make it to the international market, what are some of the subjects in Vietnam that might be of interest to the international market?
It's very, very difficult to say what subject, what kind of films, what the thing that people are interested in. But in Vietnam, I think I feel at the moment we just reached a level that we have to tell the own story. How many personal story in this country that you can tell? Very interesting.
Yeah.
You know, Paul stay here for a few days and he can hear several stories, and I'm sure that it's just personal story. I'm not saying that we have to do that. I'm not saying that, because you need to open your mind. The filmmakers have to open your mind. Don't limit yourself, not only talking about that. But I think maybe that's the way easier now, right now, that you will tell the personal story, but connected to the changing of the society, the changing of what you have to facing. You're difficult. So it makes people pay attention. That's all I want to say.
Well, I think it's right. I don't think it's about, I think it's about connecting emotionally with people. And like I say, there were films, or the story ideas that the Vietnamese filmmakers have range from very intimate dramas, very delicate dramas, right through to thrillers and horrors and genre films, but the best of all of them are always stories which feel that they are somehow connected and true to the experience of a person or people here.
For for a lot of filmmakers out there, young filmmakers, Vietnamese filmmakers who are a little bit wary about the path that lies ahead, what would be your advice to them, Paul?
Well, my first piece of advice is to accept that it is always a long journey to success within filmmaking, and that is not just true for a Vietnamese filmmaker. It's true for filmmakers all over the world. Combined with that, I think you need to have a tremendous level of enthusiasm and energy for what you're doing. You need to persevere. You need to learn, and as Van has said, every opportunity you have to learn, take it. And day to day, month to month, year to year, try and understand how your craft is developing and improving. So that's
adapting to the world.
Adapting and developing and responding. Being alive to it, really, I think. It's hard work, but then there's lots of things that are hard work.
Yes.
Yeah, I love your idea, absolutely. We have to find the best situation, the best way that we can to get the opportunity. If you see any, like a workshop like this, you come. That's why when in my workshop, I said, please come. And I hope the next time more people are going to come to my workshop. When you have a Hanif, it's an international film festival, we give you a chance to come and to bring the films, to bring the script, good script. You have a chance to see a lot of producers and commissioners when you never have a chance. They fly to Vietnam. Please come. Please send the script. You have to do something now, you know?
Yes, and as both Paul and Van has said here, there are so many opportunities out there for young filmmakers, and all you need to do is keep your eyes open and be adapted and continuously learn, because I feel like even though for experienced filmmakers like yourself, or experienced searching for new talents or connecting Vietnamese films to the world, you are always continually learning.
Learning, yes.
Well, thank you so much, you both, Paul and Van, for joining us here today, for bringing your expertise to Vietnam and sharing it with Vietnamese filmmakers, and for helping those filmmakers to reach out to the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. And that wraps up this edition of Talk Vietnam on, talking about training and creating new opportunities for the Vietnamese film industry here in the country. We hope that if you out there who are interested in becoming a filmmaker, or you're already on your way, then you will be more inspired and motivated by this edition of Talk Vietnam. Thank you very much, and we'll see you more next time. Goodbye.